Hello, I am Peter Okwacha. Welcome to Focus on Africa. Our top stories. Power outages in South Africa. What's happening in Africa's most developed economy?
It affects my business, it affects where I'm staying. All my food is rotting and I throw them away.
The Ebola outbreak in the DRC. It's confirmed that 44 health workers have been infected with the virus. 12 have died. We meet a young Kenyan woman, one of a group awarded an international fellowship for women scientists. Also on the program, the first in our series, Diaspora Diaries. As anti-immigration parties gain support in Sweden, Somali-Swedish singer Cherie talks about her life in Stockholm. And in sports, Sadio Mane is an injury doubt for Liverpool's fixture against Bournemouth on Saturday. Thanks for joining us here on Focus on Africa from BBC World News. Electricity load shedding is nothing new across many African cities, from Lagos to Lusaka to Harare to Khartoum. It means you don't have power available around the clock, just at specific times of the day. But in Johannesburg, Cape Town, well, power outages are becoming a fact of life in South Africa, the continent's most developed economy. The country's power utility, Eskom, has been plagued with problems, leading to a power deficit. The BBC's Valdo Carelse reports from Johannesburg.
Africa's most developed economy, again struggling with a wave of blackouts. South Africa's power utility, Eskom, has instituted rolling power cuts meant to avert a total collapse of the electricity grid, as it did in 2008 and 2014. It's the latest threat to an already struggling economy. Veronica Mazibuko has been selling ice cream to supplement the income she makes from her vegetable stand. But over the past few days, she's run at a loss. She's had to throw away more than 10 litres of milk.
No, load shedding is affected because
she tells me she's frustrated and she's losing money. Every time the power goes off, she's having to turn away customers. And just a block away, the power has been out for 4 days.
I didn't have 1 cent in my pocket. Everything, the money I have, the one I save, I'm using it. It affects where I'm, because I'm staying in this area, I'm staying down that side. It affects my business, it affects where I'm staying. All my food is rotting and I throw them away.
Eskom has the capacity to generate 47,000 megawatts of electricity, but currently it's managing just half of that. There's a number of reasons for the power crisis, among them dwindling coal supplies, a shortage of funds, and delayed maintenance.
We are in an emergency mode. We are in a crisis mode. This was an institution, just in case you've forgotten, that was one of the centers of state capture. And today, you begin to feel the effects of state capture on the one hand, but also the reality that you have very old power stations that are operating.
They've identified the problems, and it's clear the power utility needs an urgent fix.
Among the emergency plans announced in an effort to stabilize the country's electricity supply is the redeployment of senior managers, usually based here at the power utility's headquarters in Johannesburg, into nearly 20 power stations located across the country.
I think we're going to see plant performance slowly increase as they spend more money and more effort on this. And it's something that one can work on and achieve results. Not immediately, it's not necessarily a quick fix, but over time we can achieve results.
And with major industries and businesses shutting down for the year in the next few weeks, it's hoped this will take more pressure off the grid and prevent further power cuts. Valdo Carelse, BBC News, Johannesburg.
Officials in the Democratic Republic of Congo say 44 health professionals have been infected with the Ebola virus, and 12 of them have died since the start of the outbreak. In all, 273 people are believed to have died since July, and the authorities say they are now reinforcing hygiene controls in public and private clinics in the east of the country. The WHO's Regional Emergencies Director, Dr. Ibrahima Sochifal, spoke to us from Beni.
When we talk about these 44 people, they are all local health workers. Because for international health workers, they already trained in infection prevention and control, and they are more aware of the risk. They don't expose themselves to such a situation, and they also accept to be vaccinated. Most of them were infected at the start of the outbreak. You know, the vaccination program is very specific because we are still using an experimental vaccine. So we need consent from the health workers. If they don't accept to be vaccinated, we will not be able to vaccinate them. Some of them at the beginning did not want to be vaccinated, and unfortunately they got infected. But now I think more people are accepting the vaccination. That's why we were able to vaccinate over 12,000. Everything possible is being done to protect health workers and to protect people who are coming to the health facilities. It's not easy because knowing, the level of unpreparedness we have in this area, including the level of hygiene in the health facilities, it was not easy. But we have many partners working with us, making sure that we, elevate the standard and we regularly monitor what is going on in these health facilities.
Let's take a quick look now at other stories making the headlines across Africa and the rest of the world. Zambia's Constitutional Court has ruled that President Edgar Lungu can stand in presidential elections due in 2021. The judges ruled that Mr. Lungu would not be breaking the law or breaching a constitutional two-term limit, as his first term only lasted 18 months and he couldn't be considered a full one. For the first time in history, more than half the world's population is online, some 3.9 billion people. According to the UN, Africa has experienced the strongest growth in internet use. There's been a tenfold hike in the number of online users across the continent, from 2% to almost 25%. The excessive use of antibiotics on farm animals is a worldwide problem. But it's a particular concern in Kenya. 70% of imported antibiotics are given to chickens, pigs and cows. And that's according to a local study by the Global Antibiotic Resistance Partnership. While the drugs are aimed at keeping the animals healthy, they aren't always needed and can do more harm than good. From Nairobi, Rhoda Odhiambo reports.
In the outskirts of Nairobi, this butcher is preparing Kenya's most popular meal, roast meat. As popular as it is, experts are now warning of health risks from not only meat but other animal proteins, including milk and eggs. A new trend has seen farmers self-administering antibiotics to their sick flock, sometimes to the point of overdose, instead of getting veterinary services. This is not a Kenyan problem, but a global one. Doctors say farmers who use antibiotics to treat their animals end up making their products unsuitable for human consumption. One poultry farmer admitted to giving her chicken antibiotics preemptively.
We give them antibiotics and anti-stress because of that transportation from wherever they are coming from.
She insists that giving her chicks antibiotics before immunizing them helps in preventing them from getting sick. A few kilometers away on a pig farm, almost 800 swines are reared under the strict guidance of vets.
When it comes to medication, we do follow doctors' instruction.
The World Health Organization has warned farmers against using antibiotics to treat their animals. They argue that its excessive use without a doctor's prescription is causing more harm than good on human health. 80% of antibiotics used on farm animals are unnecessary. Vet Victor Yamo terms this misuse by farmers as a dangerous practice, adding that its impact is bigger on people's health.
Because of misuse, underuse or improper use, we have ended up in a situation where we have a lot of organisms that are becoming resistant to antibiotics, which means that the disease conditions caused by these organisms cannot be easily treated. And we are seeing such events happening even at the human level.
Dr. Yamo adds that farmers can keep animals healthy without the need for antibiotics if they ensure that houses where they keep livestock are clean and well ventilated. A global review done on antimicrobial resistance in 2017 showed that Africa will be the hardest hit because most farmers do not like consulting veterinary services because they see it as an extra cost. Rhoda Odhiambo, BBC News, Nairobi.
This is Focus on Africa from BBC World News with me, Peter Okwoche. Still to come, the Africa Beach Soccer Cup of Nations kicks off on Saturday in Egypt. I'm Peter Okwoche. The top stories this hour. There's been a week of nationwide power outages in Africa's most industrialized economy. The South African utility company Eskom has blamed low coal supplies as well as maintenance of the aging fleet of power stations. And the Ebola outbreak in the DRC, it's confirmed that 44 health workers have been infected with the virus. 12 have died. Now, how to encourage women to pursue careers in science. The L'Oreal UNESCO Fellowship aims to do just that. It's awarded to female scientists conducting research in sub-Saharan Africa. Last night in Nairobi, 14 fellowships were given to individuals from Ghana, Mauritius, Kenya, South Africa and Nigeria. They will now benefit from training in leadership management, negotiations and communication. And one of the winners is Faith Momoki, a researcher at the University of Pretoria. She joins me now from Nairobi. Congratulations, Faith. The title of your project is The Role of Brood Pheromones in Inhibiting Dominance in Apis mellifera capensis Reproductive Parasites. Help me out. Yeah. Explain that to me.
So in South Africa, we are looking at two subspecies of honeybees. That's Apis mellifera capensis and Apis mellifera scutellata. So we have one of the subspecies, Apis mellifera capensis, parasitizing Apis mellifera scutellata. So my project is looking at the role of the young ones, the brood pheromones. So the role that they, of the pheromones that they produce in suppressing reproductive dominance in the scutellata. Because we know that the brood as well as the queen produce pheromones that suppress other workers from becoming reproductively active, which is the task of the queen. So these parasitic workers, when they become reproductive, they normally cause a lot of havoc in the colony, and this leads to a situation where the colony cannot sustain itself.
And just to explain this further, Faith, I mean, we are talking now about bees, the regular bees and the rebel bees. Why is this so important to the continent and indeed the rest of the world?
Because rogue bees normally cause chaos, and when they cause chaos, the honeybee colony collapses. And when the colony collapses, we're threatening food security because honeybees are the biggest generalist pollinators of food in the world. So here we're talking about food crops. About 70% of the food crops that are consumed by human beings on a daily basis are pollinated by honeybees. So anything that threatens the sustainability or the health or the well-being of honeybee colonies threatens food security globally. So this is why we should care.
And Fiona, I do beg your pardon because I called you Faith earlier. It is actually Fiona Momoki. Why did you get interested in bees in the first place?
For the very same reason. I've always been interested in enhancing food security in Africa. The theme of all my research, every piece of research that I do has always been focused on enhancing food security in Africa. And because honeybees are the biggest pollinators, the biggest generalist pollinators globally, it was very organic for me to focus on conserving honeybees as a means of sustainable beekeeping and sustainable food security in Africa. So what I'm trying to do...
Sorry, I was just going to ask, this award, you've now won the L'Oreal UNESCO Fellowship. How important is it going forward for your career?
It's very important because it's coming at an opportune time where I'm just finishing my PhD and about to transition to the next stage, which will be a postdoctoral degree. So as I think about what I want to do next, This award is giving me sufficient funds and leadership capabilities to set me out in the right trajectory. So with the funds that I'm getting from L'Oreal, UNESCO, for Women in Science Foundation are going to help me to fund the kind of ideas that I would like to work on, and that is going to form a basis for what I'm going to work on as a postdoctoral researcher.
Okay,
and even more
Fiona,
importantly,
I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there, but a huge congratulations to you and wishing you all the best in the future. Good luck with the bees.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Do
Thank
you?
you so much.
You're watching BBC Focus on Africa. It's now time for some sports.
Thank you very
A,
much.
B, C.
ABC indeed. We start in the English Premier League where Liverpool's Sadio Mane is an injury doubt for the early kickoff on Saturday away to Bournemouth. Jurgen Klopp in a press conference today said that it didn't look like the Senegal international would be ready for the fixture. Mane missed their game earlier in the week against Burnley because of an issue with his foot. Saturday sees the 2019 Women's World Cup draw in Paris, and the FIFA rankings are out, which confirm the draw pots. With Nigeria the top-ranked African side, they're in the same pot as both South Africa and Cameroon, who also qualified for the tournament, which kicks off next year in France. And to athletics, Kenya is currently ranked in Category A by the IAAF, which means its athletes face a higher risk of doping at a 3-day seminar held for athletes by the country's athletics federation as part of the obligations set by the IAAF. The federation admits doping remains a challenge for the country.
We still have the challenge of a few things. The main one, of course, is being doping. We still have a challenge in terms of things like whereabouts, which of course is part of the information that each one of us, each one of the athletes in the registered testing pool must give so that they can be monitored wherever they are. We are talking about things like retirement, because we have seen a lot of our athletes who have retired have either retired unprepared or retired without really internalizing what they are going to face after retirement.
To boxing, and a huge weekend ahead for Ghanaian-born Isaac Dogbe, who's the current WBO World Super Bantamweight Champion. He'll be taking on Mexico's Emmanuel Navarrete on Saturday at New York's world-famous Madison Square Gardens. He'll be preparing for the second defense of his world title. And finally, on Saturday, the Africa Beach Soccer Cup of Nations kicks off in Egypt. Of the 8 championships ever played, Senegal have won half of them. They will be looking to defend their crown this weekend. Here's a little teaser of what it was like the last time around.
Lors de la dernière CAN 2016 au Nigeria.
In the last edition of the Cup of Nations 2016 in Nigeria, we were the African champions, but the tournament was very, very difficult because beating Nigeria in their house is no small feat. But as you know, us Senegalese, we have a strong mentality.
Très fort.
C'était extraordinaire d'abord de gagner la Coupe d'Afrique.
It was extraordinary to win the African Championships and then participate in the World Cup. Getting eliminated there was difficult. We advanced from the pool rounds and Italy knocked us out. It was disappointing.
C'était désolant quoi.
That's all the sport. Peter, they'll be taking part in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. Great destination, I think, don't you?
Great. Let me ask you a question. Where is home? Which country is home?
Nigeria.
Okay, we'll see. Thank you very much. Now, for most of us, home is the country of your birth. But for those born to African parents and raised outside the continent, the concept of home can be uncertain. That's what the Somali-Norwegian hip-hop artist Cherie has been telling us as part of a new series called Diaspora Diaries, where we can talk success and identity with rising stars of African heritage. Daniel Henry's report is from Sweden's capital, Stockholm, a country where elections in December have the far-right Swedish Democrats 18% of the additional vote, of the national vote.
Cherie is a Norwegian singer with Somali roots. She runs her own record label and she's had some big hits across Scandinavia. After moving from Norway and Finland, her family settled in Sweden. her mum remembers what life was like in Somalia.
anaga dhaqankeena guriga aan ka soo baxaya wuxuu yahay dhaqanka muslimka haysanaa anaga muslimaan nahay qasab in caruurtana tarbiyada la baro waa waxa aan ku soo waalidkay soo baray.
When you decided that Somalia was no longer safe and to move from there to Northern Europe, do you think, looking at what your children do now, the opportunities you have now, do you think that it was worth it?
I think I can answer that. I think they're happy for us, but they know what they had to leave behind. There's a lot of hurt there, I think, for all Somali parents. But knowing like the opportunities they made for their children, they're very happy. But there's definitely a bittersweet feeling to it.
Rinkaby has a tough reputation.
Whenever I wasn't in there, I was there.
But to Sherry, it's home.
People might get shy around cameras though, so let me just check.
That's all right.
Hey, Bo.
Hi.
Thanks so much.
What stuck out when you guys first met, when she first came through?
Yeah, just like the other kids. Maybe she was more lively, more happiness. You can just see from her always that she's going to be a leader. She is here, and I will never ever remove her from here. She's the best.
Thank you so much.
She's the best.
Families from all over the world live here. Some have left countries of war to find peace. But some politicians have had enough.
Men om man inte är nöjd, om man vill ha en förändring på riktigt, då finns det faktiskt bara ett parti att rösta på. Och det är Sverigedemokraterna. Och det tänker jag göra imorgon. Gör ni det också?
When Sherry's family arrived, the Sweden Democrats were a fringe group. But they picked up support in the 2018 elections, and now a far-right party with origins in neo-Nazism is the third largest in Swedish politics. When I caught up with Sherry at her studio, the votes hadn't been counted yet. But she knew why the message was going mainstream.
We're just really cool people, but that's what it is. People just hate whatever is unknown. Like, for instance, as a woman of Somali heritage, going back home, I wouldn't be considered fully Somali. And being here in Sweden, I'm not really considered Swedish. So, but I feel like both.
So Sherry doesn't feel 100% Somali or Swedish because she's found her own way to celebrate both.
Really and truly, just because I come from different two backgrounds, the real culture that I've been a part of is the one in Rinkeby, where I've grown up amongst Chileans and Kurdish and Turkish and Iraqi and Gambian and Eritrean and Ethiopian and Somali people and all kinds of other people. Like, you have all these different cultures that merge into one place that created its own culture with time. And I feel like that's the culture that represents me the most. It came out of nothing. It came out of unity.
And it's that culture that's bringing people together from Sweden to Somalia and beyond.
And you can see more of that film and the rest of the series online. Just head to youtube.com/BBC Africa. And that issue of identity, very heated debate going on in the West amongst kids of African origin. I know we hear that in my house as well. Don't forget, you can get in touch with me and some of the team on Twitter. I'm at Okwoche. But from me, Peter Okwoche, and the rest of the Focus on Africa team, it's been a great week with you. See you again on Monday. For now, it's goodbye.